Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day, and today we're going to talk about the world. At least I'm going to talk about the world. You guys are going to listen. Now, why do I want to talk about the world? Well, there's a lot going on, and a lot of people are having problems with what is going on, and that's a problem. Crazy, isn't it? So, basically, suffering, okay, is part of the karma of the world. All right, now everybody knows what karma is, I think, and as such, it is perfect. Okay, I don't want it to be the way it is. You don't want it to be the way it is, but that is the way it is, and as such, we must accept it. If we don't accept the way the world is, then we're going to suffer. Now let's just take, I don't know, Gaza. All right, all these Palestinians are being hunted down and exterminated by the Israelis, right? That's what's happening. I mean, it's sad. It's a really sad thing, but it's the way it is, right? And as such, we have to accept that, because otherwise we're going to try and fight against the Isness, right? That's what we do. And I don't want anyone to do that, because that only causes what? More suffering. So, why is the suffering perfect? Well, for one thing, it's what is. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Okay? This plane of existence, this material world, this globe of Earth that we are on, was made for the purpose of karma. Okay, if you believe in karma, maybe you don't believe in karma, in which case it was made for the purpose of life. Okay? Now, these dictators, okay, who are like, Netanyahu and Putin and the people in Sudan and the people in Rwanda and so on and so forth. Those are just three of the places, or four of the places that I know about. I'm sure there's dictators also everywhere, like Myanmar has a dictator, and that country next to Ukraine has a dictator. There's dictators everywhere. Okay, and why? Because karma. That's why. Anyway, these dictators, they want more because they think they deserve more. So the only way to get more for them is territory, right? That's it. There's nothing else. And unless they get that territory, they're going to feel not enough. I don't like the fact that they feel not enough. I don't like the fact that they have to have more, but that's what they have to have. Because you see, power, okay, which is what they have to have, is addictive. And the more power you have, the more you want more power. Isn't that crazy? It's true, though. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, yeah. So these dictators, okay, which there's literally tons of them. They're all around the world. China has one. North Korea has a dictator. Other places have dictators. That's just the way it is, okay? Because karma dictates that there be dictators. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And unless we accept that there are going to be dictators and that there are going to be people who want more power, like, for instance, Trump. Trump wants more power. The only way he can get more power is through territory. So what does he do? He says, I want Greenland. I want the Panama Canal. Crazy, isn't it? But that's what dictators do. They want more because they don't feel enough. Which is the same thing for a lot of people. A lot of people don't feel like they're enough. And so what do? They try to fill that hole with cars and houses and wives and kids and all sorts of things, okay? Presents and electronic gadgets and gold, silver, money. The only problem is none of that stuff works. You cannot fill the hole because the hole is there because God is not in it anymore. Isn't that crazy too? Of course it is. Now, so It's sad, isn't it? It's so sad. But it is the way it is. And it's perfectly perfect. Because that is the nature of the isness. You cannot say, oh, well, I want things to be a different way because that's the way I want them. I don't want people dying by droves in Palestine. I don't want them dying by droves in Sudan or other places. But that is the way it is. And they are dying by droves because that's the way it is. But even without all the dictators, there's just a straight up, we don't care about them because they're them. There are literally a person dying of starvation every second. Every second, somebody dies. 1, 2, death. 1, 2, death. 1, 2, death. That's the way it goes. And why is that happening? Because we don't care about them. We don't care about them. Even though we have more than enough food in this country, and in Canada, and in Mexico, not about Mexico, more than enough food in this country, and in Canada to feed the whole world. Okay? We don't care. Why? Because the people that happen to be in power, all they care about is themselves. That's the nature of power. Okay? And so being upset, I know it's not easy to look at the world and not be upset because I'm upset by it. But being upset about the way it is not going to help you. You have to accept the isness of the world. I mean, I don't know everything, obviously, but this is one thing I do know, and that is that if you do not accept the isness of everything, then you are going to suffer. Look at the people protesting, okay, for the Palestinians. Look at them. They're now being deported, the people that aren't from this country, okay? And the people that are from this country are having their universities take away their diplomas. Why? Because the people in charge don't want anyone messing with Israel. That's why. That's sad. So sad. Okay? But that's the way it is. And the fact is, karma dictates that that's the way it's going to be. Okay? Now, I don't know if you believe in karma or not. You may think, oh, karma's bullshit or whatever. That's fine. Then it's the isness that dictates it. Okay? Now, let's take, I don't know, the isness of me. This guy right here. I have long hair, okay? Which is difficult to take care of because that's just the way it is. Okay? And I have a long beard, which is also difficult. But why do I have these? Because God made this life form with hair that grows. Now I can fight against that isness. I can cut the hair off. And keep cutting it, and cut it every few weeks, or whatever it is. And that's fighting against the isness, and that's not something I'm going to do. So that's why I made a vow never to cut my hair. Okay? And look at the wrinkles on my face. I'm going to bring up myself to the camera. Okay? Do you see some of the wrinkles going on here? Now, I could be upset about wrinkles. Yeah. Because, oh, no, my face is wrinkly. Oh, my God, look at all the wrinkles. Okay? But it's part of the isness of me. I am a wrinkly old man. That's just the way it is. If I fight against these wrinkles, if I get cream and I put it on my face and I get a red light thing and put that on my face and try to keep the wrinkles from happening, that is fighting against the isness. I know you probably don't think about the isness much because why should you, right? You're trying to live on this planet and get as much stuff as you can together so you can have a happy life, right? That's what you're trying to do. But the isness is still there. It's still part of you because you have your own isness. Just like I have my own isness, the long hair and the wrinkly face. And look at my hand. Look at it. You can see the bones moving inside. You can see the veins. Why? Because I used to be a sun child. I used to love going out in the world and being in the sun. I loved playing on the beach and playing in the grass and playing by the pool. And for, I don't know, let's see, I turned 3, so 3 to 18, that's 15 years I was playing, okay? And so my son, the sun, put this model-y thing on my flesh. Look at it. It's all modeled because of the sun. I was burnt by the sun, and I wanted to be out in the sun because That was where the action was. Because in 1950s, okay, or 1960s, there wasn't anything else. There was no Facebook. There was no TV. It was TV, but my dad was poor, so we didn't have one. There was nothing. There was books. And who wants to read books, right? It's boring, okay? When you're a child, you want to run. You want to jump. You want to play. You want to pretend. That's what you want to do, okay? And so that's what I did. I went out in the sun and I played. And the result? Wrinkly skin. Okay? And I smoked cigarettes. That gave me wrinkly skin too. Everything I did had a consequence. Okay? I was burnt by the sun. Okay? And I smoked cigarettes, which made my skin more wrinkly. Okay? And that is the isness of me, and I have to accept that. If I don't accept that, and if I try to make it all over with creams or whatever, then I'm fighting against the isness, which causes what? Suffering. That's what it causes. Now, I don't want anyone to have to suffer in this life, but everyone does, because that is the isness. Now, how do we not suffer? Accepting the isness. I know it's crazy of me to laugh about that, but that's what it is. We cannot live without the isness. Okay? Just like we cannot live without water and air. Okay? And there are people out there who want to destroy the water and destroy the air because they think they're doing the right thing. Just like the dictators think they're doing the right thing. The dictators think they're good. Netanyahu says to himself, these pests have to be wiped out so that me and my people can have a good homeland. Okay? And that includes not just the Palestinians, but any other Arabs around. That's why he's attacking, Syria. Because Syria has part of the Holy Land in it. Right? Damascus, where Paul was struck blind and had an experience with the Holy Spirit. And then Jesus gave him his sight back. That's in Damascus, which is part of Syria. And Netanyahu, who's a dictator, wants more power. So what's he going to do to get it? Get more territory. That's it. It's fucking funny, isn't it? Sorry, I used a bad word. I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to get demonetized. Who cares? I'm not trying to make money off this video. Anyway, so the point is, all these things are happening because they're meant to happen. Why are children starving 40 million a year and dying because of starvation? Because we don't care. We're us, and they're them. As long as you have an us and them, then there's going to be people who are starving. Even though we have enough food to feed the entire world, which we do. Okay? And we give most of that food to the animals so we can eat them. Crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But that's the way it is. We cannot be good if we're going to continue to allow people to starve to death, which we do. Okay, there are people in Africa that are starving to death. There are people in Gaza that are starving to death. We allow it. We allow Netanyahu to close the borders, to keep any aid from coming in. Why do we allow? We could go in with jet planes, blow the hell out of Netanyahu, and then feed those people. But we don't. Why is that? Because we don't care about them. We care about us. That's who we care about. There's us, and then there's them. And those them, we couldn't give a shit about. And that's why there are children starving right now in everywhere. Just the way it is. Now, I don't want it to be that way, obviously. But it's perfectly perfect that it is that way. Because that is the way it is. And we must accept and respect the isness. Now, you have your own isness. You have the isness of you, okay? Which is that you made your choices, and you have to accept the consequences of those choices. Okay? That's what it is. Okay? Like I made my choices. I chose to smoke for 50 years, so therefore I've got wrinkly skin. Okay? That's it. I have accepted my wrinkly skin because I'm old, for one thing. Obviously, old people get wrinkly skin, but the dehydration of my skin because of smoking and all that shit has just made it worse, right? And your actions have consequences. And those consequences are the isness of you. And if you accept the consequences, if you don't fight against the consequences, then you will be free. But if you try to fight, which you do, you fight as much as you can to stop the thing from happening that you don't want to happen. Like getting your coffee wrong. You go into the barista or the Starbucks and the barista says, what do you want? And you tell him, and he gives you something else. And you, what's this? Taste it. What is this? And you get upset. Right? And you say, this is not what I ordered, barista. And the barista says, well, that's just what we got. There is none of this macchiato sauce that you wanted, so that's it. And then you have a fit, or you don't. Because either you accept what is, or you don't. Okay? And if you are a student, or even not a student, and you don't like what's happening in Palestine, you don't like what's happening in this country right now, the way Trump and Elon Musk are literally destroying the federal workforce, well, you can protest. You can fight against the isness. And obviously that has some effect because Trump doesn't like to look stupid. Trump doesn't like to look bad. He doesn't like his approval rating to dip. Okay, so that helps. It does. And I'm not saying it doesn't help. Okay, but those actions have consequences, and that is part of your isness. Right? Right, that is. And if you do not accept the consequences of your isness, you remember Black Lives Matter? You remember it? A couple of years ago, after George Floyd died, we all thought Black Lives Matter was going to make a difference, didn't we? It didn't. It didn't make any difference at all. Because why? Because police like killing black people. That's it. And you know what? They're continuing to do so. Because that's just the way it is. Okay? And you have to accept the isness. Being free, okay, which is what I think we all want, is to be free, is about accepting. Trying to not accept is what brings suffering. I don't want anyone to suffer, but that's just the way it is. Now, all these dictators, okay, they want more. So they have to attack to get. And that's what they're doing. They're attacking, okay? Sudan's has one dictator, two dictators. They're attacking each other. They're attacking the whole country. They're killing like just billions of people in order to have that little tiny bit more power, okay? And eventually they're going to turn their eyes toward other countries, and they'll attack them too. And eventually one of them will survive, one of them will become more and more powerful, okay, and become like a Putin, right? And that's the way it is. And we don't care about that because their skins are different colors than ours. We don't care about the millions of African children who are starving to death because they're black. And they're not even our black. We have black. That's the black people in America. But we don't care about the black people in Africa. I mean, we do a little bit. That's why we have UNICEF and USAID and stuff like that. But we don't really care. That's just the way it is. Because it's them. And we're us. And that all goes back to the tribe and the other. Okay? Back in the day when you were a primitive, or your ancestors were primitives, okay? You had your tribe, which was everybody in your tribe, and you knew them well, and that's who you identified with. You identified with the tribe, okay? And that was your isness. You needed to stay with your tribe, or you were going to be dead. And if you got kicked out of your tribe, you were dead. That was the way it was, okay? Even if you were a great hunter, you wouldn't survive without the tribe because that was the important thing. And when a new tribe came along, or a different tribe, they were the other. They were them. Okay? And we didn't know who they were, and we didn't respect them, and so we fought against them. Even though they were the new isness, we fought against it. And so, wars happened. Okay? All throughout history, there have been wars. And why? Because people in power, like kings, take Charlemagne. I don't know if you ever read any history, but Charlemagne was a king of Europe. All of Europe was at one time unified under Charlemagne, and he didn't like the Moors. That's it. The Moors were black people from down south who came up and took over Spain and other parts of Europe. And he didn't like the Moors because they had a different color skin. And so he decided to go out and exterminate them. Just like Netanyahu is exterminating the Palestinians, okay? And people in Sudan are being exterminated by the dictators, the military juntas, okay? And people in Cambodia were exterminated by that military junta, and so on and so forth. Okay? Because Charlemagne thought he was right, just like Netanyahu thinks he's right, and Putin thinks he's right. And they are trying to make the world safe for them. Okay? And so they say everybody who's not us must die. And who's not us? But the Moors. That's who. And so Charlemagne and all of his armies went out and they exterminated the Moors from Europe. That's it. And all those Moorish people, women and children included, died and were exterminated. Just like the people in Palestine are dying now. That's the way of the world. It's been going on for thousands of years. Eventually, Charlemagne died, and he gave all of his sons and daughters different countries, like, for instance, Britain. The king of Britain is related to Charlemagne. Okay? King Charles is related to Charlemagne, and so were the kings of all the other countries. The king of Sweden, related to Charlemagne. Great-great-grandson of Charlemagne. That's how it was, okay? And why were they the great-great-grandsons of Charlemagne? Because he killed all the Moors. That's why. Now, I know you guys don't want a history lesson, but I'm just trying to explain how the world is and how we cannot make it any other than it is, okay? I mean, I don't know everything, obviously, but I do know that we're not going to be able to stop what's going on. We're not going to be able to stop Putin from trying to destroy Ukraine. Because we don't care. Even though Ukraine has all these resources, and we want those resources, we're still not stopping Putin. We could go in there with jets and the weapons and we could stop him dead right now. But of course, Donald Trump likes Putin because Donald Trump is a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. So he loves all dictators. And he's not going to go in and stop Putin, just like the president before him wasn't going to stop Putin, because that's just the way it was. And just like we're not going to stop Netanyahu, we're continuing to ship weapons to Netanyahu. And that is the isness. If we do not accept the isness of what is, we're going to suffer. We can protest, man. Protests work, don't they? I mean, yeah, of course they do. To some extent. I mean, Black Lives Matter was a protest for years, right? But then what happened? They kept killing black people, okay? Didn't they? I hear about new black people who were killed by the cops all the time. Don't you? Of course you do. That is the isness, because it's a racist organization of police. That's what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. I don't want black people to die. You don't want black people to die, but you know what? They're going to die because that's what's happening. And they're going to die because they don't accept the isness. That's it. A black person gets pulled over and they're like, I don't accept this. Yeah, they don't accept the isness of being pulled over. And so they argue with the cop. And the cop says, all right, pull him out of the car and shoot him. White people don't argue with cops. White people obey the cops. That's why you don't hear a lot about white people getting killed. Okay? And I understand why the black people do not accept the isness of the cops being their overlords. Because they don't want to have that. They don't want to have that. They want to be the same as everyone else. Well, you're not the same. You have black skin. Okay? And as long as you fight against the isness, you are going to suffer and die. What is the isness? The cops are your overlords. Okay? I hate to say it. I hate to see it, but that's what it is. You cannot say that that is not the case, because that is the case. Okay? And as long as you think that you have power over the cops, or that you can disobey the cops, then you're going to suffer. That's just the way it is. I don't want that to be, but it's the way it is. Just like I don't want Palestinians to suffer. And I don't want Israel to kill. But Israel is killing Palestinians, and they're going to keep killing. And we're not going to stop, because that's not us. It's them. I mean, it's terrible, isn't it? But the fact is, the karma of the Palestinians is to die. Why? Because they've completed their work. What's the work of karma? Well, some people say it's to complete what you started in a past life. But really, what I say, it's what you have to do. What you have to do in this life is your karma. And the Palestinians have to die. I don't like that they have to die. You don't like that they have to die. So we protest. Okay? And what happens? If you're a person who's here from another country on a student visa and you protest, you're going to get sent home. That's the way it's going to be. No matter how great you feel about being an anti-Israelite protester, you're going to get sent home if you keep doing it. This girl, I forget her name, who wrote a piece about how the Israelites were killing, the Israelis were killing she got deported because she wrote a piece. Okay? She was walking down the street, and then a bunch of masked ICE agents came and took her away. And she's sitting in a jail in Texas, even though she had lived in Massachusetts. And as much as we fight against what is, which we do, we all fight against it. Okay? It's not going to change it. Black Lives Matter did not change. Black Lives Matter did not change anything. And we are not going to change the Palestinians' fate, because there's a dictator, Netanyahu, and he is insistent on killing these pests. These pests are in our land. We need to get rid of these pests. And he tells the soldiers, they're rats. I saw the movie Dune Part 2, and the Harkonnens were calling the Dune folk, I forget their name, pests. These pests must be killed. They must be destroyed. Okay? Because they were dictators. They dictated that these pests must not live. Just like Netanyahu is dictating to his soldiers that these pests must not live. And even these pests, who are human and have every right to live just like everybody else, they're not going to live, because that's what the person in power in that country wants. Just like the person in Russia wants Ukraine. The person in power in Israel wants parts of Syria. And as soon as the dictator in Syria was gone, they attacked to get what they wanted, right? That's it. And when they're done with Syria and they have incorporated part of Syria into Israeli country, then they'll attack Damascus and they'll attack other places, because that's what they do. Because they have a dictator who wants more, who wants to feel like they have more. And they're going to take out the Palestinians because Trump suggested that they could make a resort town out of it. That's why. Everything was going fine with the Palestinians and the truce until Trump said, hey, let's make a resort town out of Gaza. He said one thing. He made a video about it. Okay, or somebody did out of AI. One of his followers. And that's what happened. And so now Netanyahu is determined to destroy these pests. And when you dehumanize somebody by calling them a name, which we do it all the time, then That's it. They're easy to kill because they're no longer human. They are pests. And that is the way it is. I don't want anyone to be suffering, but there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing anyone can do about it, because the man in charge, Mr. Netanyahu, doesn't care about people. What he wants is more. And if we do not accept the isness of that, we do not accept the isness of Sudan, we do not accept the isness of whoever's leading Rwanda, taking over the part of Africa, and everywhere else where dictators are trying to get more, then we are going to suffer. That is the way of it. I don't want anyone to suffer, but that is how it is. And if you do not accept your own isness, okay, then you are going to suffer. Not necessarily be in pain, but suffer. Which starts with complaining about your coffee, or about the way you've been treated, or about anything else that you don't like. Okay? Maybe somebody said you weren't good enough, or they said you weren't a good whatever, and you got offended. You felt bad because you are fighting against the isness of what is. You didn't accept it because that's not what we do as human beings. As human beings, we want to fight against the isness. That's what we want to do. I mean, I don't want it to be that way, but that's the way it is. And there's only one way to stop that, and that is to accept. There's only one way to get enlightenment, and that is to accept. Simple as that. You are a child of God. You are here because God put you here. Whatever anyone says about you doesn't matter, because you are a child of God, and you have to accept that. And you have to accept what people say about you, because that's the way you do. Somebody calls me a stupid old man. Well, maybe I am stupid. Okay? And I'm old. No question about that. Okay? But if I fight against what they call me, then I'm going to suffer. And if you fight against what they call you, you're going to suffer too. Not only that, but you're going to feed the person who's calling you that, because they want you to suffer. They want you to get upset. They want you to be unhappy. Because when you're unhappy, they're happy. They get happy because you're unhappy. That's the way it is. Anyway, I guess my time is about over, so I guess I'm going to stop talking about stuff. But just try to accept who you are. You are a soul. As long as you believe that you are a person with a personality and a body, okay? Yeah, we have bodies. Yeah, we have personality. That's true. We do. But that's not who you really are. That is what you are on the outside. Who you are on the inside, that's what matters. This stuff on the outside doesn't matter. I could be killed tomorrow, but it doesn't matter, because my soul will live on, and I will return to God. That's the way it is. But as long as we continue to fight against the isness of our own selves, then we are going to suffer. Acceptance of everything is key. Your karma, whatever it is, okay, is what it is. And as long as you are not willing to accept your karma, then you are going to be in suffering. Okay? My karma is that I'm old and wrinkly. Okay? And if I don't accept that, then I'm going to be in suffering too. Okay? But whatever your karma is, whatever you're going through in this life, and I know it's not easy. Of course it's not easy. Why would it be easy? Because if it was easy, then what would happen? Life would be a dream, right? We would just float through it and everything would be fine, but that's not the way it is. Life is a struggle, and it's that way because you have to wake up. You have to wake up in order to be you. Because right now, the person that you are is not important. I know we think we're important. We think we're really important, don't we? Yeah, we do. But it doesn't matter because we're not. The important part of us is the part that God made. This life form and your life form is just something we're wearing in order to be on this plane of existence, the physical plane of existence. That's it. And once we shuffle off this plane, once we die, if we hold on to this plane of existence, we try to hold on as tight as we can. We hold. I'm not going to die. I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to. You're fighting against the Isness, and you're going to suffer through your horrible death because that's what it is. But if you believe and accept that you are a soul and that death is not the end, then you are going to have a good death. Okay? That's all there is to it. All right, well, I guess I better stop. I love you all because you're all souls, and I'm a soul, and I know that, and you need to know it too. Because even though people are dying in Gaza and everywhere else, they are souls too, regardless of what Netanyahu thinks. And we allow that because they are them and we are us. That's the way it is. It's a sick system, but this is the system we happen to live under. All right. Love you all once again. Please give me questions. If anything I've said hasn't made sense, give me the question. Okay? All right. Well, I guess that's enough. Love you guys so much. All right. Have a great life.